What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Spark to Fire. I'm your host, Landon, and today I have the CEO of Proceed Finance, Dave Roehr, with me. And Dave is also the former Chief Financial Officer of Cabela's Inc. He guided them through unprecedented sales growth, their retail expansion, and rocketed them past a $1 billion valuation mark. On top of that, he served as the founder and CEO of World's Foremost Bank, the wholly owned and regulated credit card bank utilized by Cabela's to issue and manage their co-branded Cabela's Visa credit cards and related customer rewards programs. So if you guys ever had a Cabela's credit card program, this is the guy that you should be thanking because he was a massive part of making that happen. Tons of board experience. This guy has led thousands of people through his tenure at Cabela's, Grant Thornton, and just a really interesting character. I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. If you like it, please leave a rating, a 5-star rating and a review. Would love to hear from you, and screenshot it and post it to your Instagram. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Take care. Dave, thanks for coming in.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for letting me join.
Yeah, this is awesome. So up until this point, guys, we've just been talking about the various different things that Dave's got going on in his life. Anything from working with the COVID vaccine to financing dental implant surgery, all the way to building one of my favorite companies in the world, the banking side of that business, which would be Cabela's and World's Foremost Bank. So today's going to be a really interesting episode. It's going to be kind of all over the board, but I want to start off with, in true Spark to Fire fashion, like what was the origin story of Dave Roehr? Where are you from? What was your upbringing like? And what brought you to start your first career?
Sure. Well, interesting question. If you go back to the early days, I grew up in Beatrice, Nebraska. That's where I was born and raised, went to Beatrice High School. Mm-hmm. Was, fairly active in sports, all of that sort of thing. Had a great mom and dad. I was the youngest of 4 children, and my father owned a farm implement business. So the one thing, I remember growing up is that really helped me develop a work ethic was my dad. I started working in his business when I was preteen.
Okay. Yeah.
and there was always something to do, and then worked in his business pretty much through college, had a couple other jobs, but.
So you're taking care of, are you washing equipment at that time? You said it's an
I'm
implement
putting
business?
parts away,
Doing,
just odds and end jobs, maintenance, mowing, painting buildings, you name it. And then as I got older, I got more into like he was a big irrigation guy. So working with setting up irrigation systems, delivering products to farmers.
Yeah.
And, when I actually was, quote, he trusted me enough to do that type of stuff. So, it was a good upbringing. And, I was the first one in my family to go to college. So
you went pretty young, right?
Yeah, I graduated from high school early and went to UNL.
Like, what's early?
My senior year, I wasn't in high school. I spent my senior year of high school as a freshman at the university. So I graduated early.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway.
Like 17. I mean, like 17 years old.
Yeah. When I started.
Okay. So you got right into it at UNL.
I did. So, my objective was when I started college, I was in the business administration college. I wanted to be a CPA, and then I was planning on going to law school. That was kind of my thing. I hit it hard and did great in college. Was good experience, and interned my senior year for a CPA firm.
Did that all come easy to you? Just like everything, I mean, you graduated early, so I'm assuming it did, but just everything education-wise, did it come pretty easy to you, or was it?
Well, I worked hard at it. You studied and did all the things. So, I had a good grade point average, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So graduated. I did the college in 3 years. So I started my career, took the CPA exam my senior year in college and passed it, and started my career in public accounting. So I worked for one of the large firms, and you start off as a like a level 2 staff, so you're like the lowest form of life in the public accounting form. Yeah, so and then you work in those days. The work ethic. I mean, it was like described to me, if you had too much work, a manager told me, well, that's why God created evenings and weekends. So, that was the kind of environment that you worked in, and you just got things done. And so, that was good. And then I didn't like auditing, so I loved tax side of it. So I went back and took a year leave and went back and got my master's degree in tax law at the University of Denver. So that was my master's degree. And that was a great experience, great education. Anybody who wants to go in the field of taxation, I would totally recommend that program.
Yeah.
And it was.
What did you find interesting about it? Like most people would hear this and they're going to think like that's boring. Like what drew you to it?
In public accounting, there are really three things that they do. They do the auditing and accounting. That's one side of it. The tax side of it is another one, and then they do consulting. It's kind of the third part of it, and that's all over. But I like the tax just because you really are viewed as more of a consultant, and people want to hear what you have to say because you're trying to help them save and manage their tax liabilities, and that can be individuals, high income individuals, all the way to companies, and everybody has an interest in that.
Yeah.
So they seek you out. Auditors on the other side, are kind of a necessary evil.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I apologize to those listening that are on that side, but anyway. So I wanted to get but you don't learn enough in your undergraduate degree of tax law to really know what the hell what to do. You need a lot of education that's just specifically for that.
Totally.
So that's what this program was, and it was half lawyers, half CPAs, and we took the same courses. It was kind of a graduate program of law school, and they allowed accountants in it. But anyway, it was a great deal that kind of advanced my career in that part of it, and then I focused in that area, and myself and three others left this large firm to start kind of our own firm in Lincoln, and we grew that, and then became part of a firm called Grant Thornton. And
what was your firm called?
Well, it was we were a kind of a satellite office of a it was another firm called Fox and Company, which then Grant Thornton bought.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then so we were part of that, and that was a great firm, great experience. But
how old were you at that time, though?
22 or 3.
22.
I can't remember.
That's nuts because you're fast tracking everything else in your life.
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, you want to, take this risk. And I remember the day we left and, moved over to starting our own firm. I mean, I didn't have any clue what I was doing.
Were you reading a bunch of books at this time to learn how to do this stuff? Or were you just like figuring, like asking people, what did you do to, like, what gave you that confidence to
It was the people that left with me, kind of a mentor, and I was the youngest of the group. There's 4 of us that left and started. But anyway, so that all worked out. It was a lot of work and to grow a firm from nothing to where, I think, when I left, we probably had 40 professionals, so we were able to, be successful in developing it. And, there you kind of learn, it was like you eat for food, when you start, because you really, you need clients and revenue. And so, you take on what you have to do to survive and grow and, so you develop it. That was a great experience.
And then you start actually getting,
you actually start doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Business, right?
Yeah. So
so how long were you there for age 22 to win?
Well, I made partner when I was 30, I think, in the firm. And then I did that till 1994. And it was really a deal where another opportunity hit me. So public accounting, it's a great profession, but it's a grinder, and I was looking for really something to do, another opportunity, and this one kind of fell in me. I mean, you got to be at the right spot at the right time. But one of my largest clients, or my largest client that I brought into the firm, I got to know the owners and the founders really well. And long story short, they sat me down one day and said, we'd like you to come to work for us. So that was a huge decision, because I would give up my partnership in public accounting and then take the risk to go to and moved my family from Lincoln to Sidney, Nebraska. It was Cabela's.
Right.
And getting into a company that really I knew a lot about from a financial point of view, because I, was their tax
numbers, but not the people.
Knew all the
much.
numbers. I knew the people,
Right.
how this thing operated, what's direct marketing, how do they make money, how does their business model work. So so I got thrown into that and started off as their CFO.
What were they like, by the way? So you knew their numbers, didn't know them personally, but what
I knew
was it
the
like
owners, Dick and Jim Cabela.
Yeah.
Okay.
What were they like?
Great people. I mean, they, that whole story is fascinating. They started that whole thing at a kitchen table, took the risk, entrepreneurs, and, they complemented each other as brothers. One was more on the merchandising side of it. The other, Dick, was a marketer, and they didn't get in each other's way. As they grew, they had the philosophy that we hire the best talent. If we don't know the answer, or this is beyond our expertise, let's find somebody that does and give them a long enough rope to do their job and not get in their way. So that's how they were able to really grow that thing. And
I love it.
They were true entrepreneurs and great people. And then, as time went on.
Sorry to cut you off, what size were they when you got there?
They were probably just in terms of revenue, right about 200 million in revenue.
Okay.
I mean, they were primarily
taking,
a direct marketer, so they were a cataloger. They they sent out tens of millions of catalogs, and it was in those days direct marketing is pre-internet, so you sent on a catalog. And you would hope that somebody would look at the catalog, and it's a fascinating way how you manage that business, because it's all data and a lot of statistics and all that sort of thing. But to get the best response rates out of catalog, you send it to current buyers. They have 12-month buyers, 24-month buyers, and just all of this fascination about how to make it work. And we would actually get it down to where we do a P&L per page on a catalog. Wow. And then, so you'd have products on a page of a catalog, and if that product was successful and profitable, then you'd grow that category. And if it wasn't, well, you'd phase it out or do something else. And so you'd kind of roll with your successes in merchandising and product, and then dump your losers. And, eventually you'd have one catalog that became another catalog, because it was special.
So good.
That product category was so good that we could create a specialty catalog, and you just so you have a camping catalog, an archery catalog, and just on and on. So and that was the direct marketing business. But when they started, this was even before the creation of 800 numbers. Oh, wow. So it was literally, you would get a catalog, there'd be an order form in there. You'd fill out the order form, put it in in the postal system. It would come to us. The order would be processed, and they'd ship it out.
Wow.
Then in the early 70s, the 800 number was invented. Where that actually took off. So people could call and place an order now and not have to, do it through slow mail. But a lot of people still, that's what they did. Behavior, it takes time for that all to change. And so, then they, started a retail division where, we're strictly a catalog division. And the retail stores were kind of created as an afterthought. And that's a fascinating story.
So they were a $200 million company before they had retail?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many people actually know that. That's super
They didn't.
interesting.
Nobody. It was private. We went public, so all of it was,
Then it became obviously well known. But I just mean, like, in general, people that love and know the Cabela's brand, like myself, like I remember loving it because obviously Sue indoctrinated us. Shout out to my Aunt Sue for helping line this up. Indoctrinated us into the Cabela's life, right? So I bought my first fishing pole that I ever purchased on, like, a nice fishing pole for myself through a Cabela's catalog.
Yep.
And so just knowing that I fell into one of those P&Ls that would, like, and these are thousands of sheets of paper. Is there hundreds in a catalog, Cabela's catalog at one time?
Well, it depends on, that all evolved over time.
Yeah.
We the first was, it was like in the beginning they had a fishing catalog. Mm-hmm. They really weren't into hunting. Well, then they knew what their buyers were buying. And then, Dick and Jim were great about getting input from customers. Well, they figured that, hey, these people that fish also hunt, and we should look into developing a hunting product line, and that. So they started in that. So then they had like a spring catalog, which was fishing, a fall catalog, which was hunting. Well, okay, that all worked. Well, then, the next thing is, we ought to have a Christmas catalog.
Oh,
so you get a Christmas catalog.
You got me on that one.
And then you start getting into, all the specialties as that grew. And then once we had all these specialties, they folded all of it into a master catalog.
Okay.
You probably got one of those.
I got the master catalog.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. And so then it was like, okay, so you kind of did a full circle, and the master catalog was the most successful. And then they even at one time for the prime buyers created a book. So you got a hardbound catalog that was probably 1.5 inches thick that had everything in it. And that was kind of a big deal. But anyway, so that was the catalog business.
Yeah.
But then retail, the reason they started in retail was, when you have a catalog business, your inventory stored in a warehouse or distribution center, and people would find out that, they had one in Sydney and they had one in Kearney, and that's where all of the orders, inventory was stored. And the shipments, the customers occurred. Well, people would show up at your distribution center wanting to buy. Okay, they knew where it was, so they said, well, we ought to have a little retail store, to handle this traffic that just comes off the interstate and they want to buy. Yeah. So why won't we sell to them? So that started their first retail store, and was just kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
And then they finally said, well, we want to do something for our brand. So they really did their first large store in Sidney, Nebraska, which was off the interstate, which became the second largest tourist attraction in Nebraska, only behind the zoo in Omaha.
I believe it.
And they had people from everywhere. Well, that worked. And, that's about when I started.
Man.
And then, I asked the question, well, what if we put this in the right location? What would happen? Because this is out in the middle of, off I-80, where very, remote part of the world in terms of, traffic volumes and stuff. So then we went and said, well, where do we go next? And the beauty of the catalog business gave us all the data of where our customers are. So we were able to come up with a model that figured, okay, here's where the stores need to be based on where our customers are. And, you kind of did the theory at that time that if only 10% to 20% of the people will buy direct, most people want to buy, touch, see, feel, retail, totally. Go on and actually see product before they buy. We knew where those were, and you made the assumption, well, if that's that good with, 20% of the people that are willing to buy direct, what will this be like when you get all the retail people that want brick and mortar?
Right.
So we went and ventured and started our growth of our retail expansion. So the first one was in Minnesota, south of Minneapolis.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then did that store. It became the second largest tourist attraction in Minnesota behind the Mall of America.
Yeah.
Then we went to Michigan, and then we were number one in Michigan. There's a huge store. So we just kept doing that. And
that's so cool.
Grew the business. And
then before you know it, you have states asking for these to be.
Yeah. Then was in charge of all the economic development incentives, so you really were in demand because we really sold tourism.
Yeah.
Because if we put a store and spent that kind of investment in this market, all of a sudden, you have, like in Michigan, 6 million people visiting that store a year, and over half of them are 200 miles away from home. It's destination tourism, and so that sparks all kinds of economic activity. So we were able to really develop that as well in terms of we did one in Kansas City that was went with Nebraska Furniture Mart. I remember that deal, and it really worked out well. But we were able to really get some help with all of our costs of infrastructure and location and all of that stuff, because of the economic impact we would make to a location. So anyway, that was a lot of fun.
You had preferred choice basically, and on real estate, and I'm sure people like let you move quickly on the city level too, because they're like, yeah, have you seen what these have done for?
Yeah,
you bring a prospectus in, and they're like, yeah, this is what we did for the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did, and then here was the economic impact. Here's
Right.
what we would project it to be for this location, and so how do we get this done? And you get a lot of friendly people that wanted that to happen because it was a huge deal. I mean, like the one we did in Pennsylvania, I'll never forget. I just was back there about a year ago and talked to the guy that was part of the local representation, but they estimated the economic impact, and this was a location that was not even on the map, but we created 1,500 jobs. Not only our store jobs, but all of the other jobs that came as a result. So, it was kind of fun to do. But
that is cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of we worked. Grew the retail piece of that, and then I got kind of lucky. Where I said, one of the other things we ought to try, because we had it was described as a cult-based type customer base.
100%. Yeah, I was in it. Great call.
Yeah. So
I was there.
So what else can we do? Well, then I got the idea that we ought to try a co-brand rewards card in terms of, the whole value proposition is let's do a co-branded Visa card, because that's what our customers wanted, and reward them for usage, with the value proposition that, hey, if you use this card as your card of choice, you can earn free from us at no cost to you hundreds of dollars of free merchandise.
Yeah.
That was the value proposition. So let's get that going. So we created a co-brand program that in the early days that was with the old National Bank of Commerce here in Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And we did a 50-50 deal. They were trying to grow their credit card division at that time. And so we didn't really know what to expect. So, it was de novo. And I remember that I said, well, let's do this. Let's get a list of, our 1 million best customers. And we could do that on a recency frequency model, of how many people, have bought recent and frequent, okay? And then, we're dollar volumes as well. So you could, so we had this list.
Oh man, I bet that's a fun data to
And we
look
sent
at.
it out, it was not, and it was a direct mail piece.
Yeah.
And sent that out. We screened it for pre-screening on credit quality because, we had a criteria that we needed to, just to manage the risk. And so, the quality of our customers surprised everybody in terms of their credit quality. But anyway, so we sent out this 1 million piece mailing, and
1 million total.
Offer this new product. Hey, do you want a Cabela's Visa card? Here's all the benefits, and we got a 15% response to the first mailing.
150,000.
And the normal in credit card on a direct mail response is less than 1%.
Less than 1.
So that kind of took off pretty fast.
That's
and
insane.
Blew away so that kind of created the whole,
And so what did NBC say?
We need more money in terms of funding this thing. So,
Right.
So that was a lot of fun. And then we tried a lot of other different techniques. We've created a lot of interesting new concepts, in the credit card world that, really hadn't been done before. Don't really want to get into all the details of that, but that was hugely successful. It grew, and, we were a partner with NBC. Well, then NBC ended up selling to Wells Fargo. That triggered a change of control clause in our contract and agreement with them. And then we were basically not going to be a partner with Wells. They wanted us to be, but they weren't a co-brand. They weren't in that business. So anyway, in those days, this was back around 2001, a retailer could get a bank charter that was a limited purpose charter that allowed banks or retailers to own banks that were their own credit card bank.
Is that still possible?
No. Well, it was called a SEBA bank. Those charters, legally it's still on the books, but the regulators have in effect eliminated all of them. Yeah. Cabela's, the world's foremost bank, was the last one.
Oh my gosh.
In the day they had there were about 65 of them.
Uh-huh. And that's in the state. That's in
national.
Nation. Okay.
Yeah, we ended up getting a national bank charter when.
So what was it like to go through chartering a national bank? Like that's.
It was it wasn't my first rodeo on a bank because in public accounting I was a bank guy. I did a lot of bank work, so I chartered been involved in chartering other banks, but this one was very specific. But yeah, it was a year's process, and we met all the tests, and but you had to get you had to fund this stuff, so you had a lot of things that had to be in place. So I remember that was when we closed on that deal. We were we had to get our bank charter and get all the approval. We had to do a turnkey buyout with Wells Fargo, so I had to buy out their portfolio, bought their building, had to take on all their employees, that were in the credit card division.
Which were how many?
Oh, I think there were 70 or 80 people at that time. And then we had to add the liquidity, because you have to fund your credit cards, so you have to have all of the capital, in place to make all this happen. And, we did that, we closed it basically over a weekend. So Friday it was Wells and the old NBC, and Monday it was World's Foremost Bank.
That all happened in that short of a time?
Yeah, we did it with a lot of planning went into it.
Right, and it was just like
turnkey,
step.
Yep. Yep. So we were in business on a Monday, and then now that Cabela's owned 100% of the deal in our own bank, we could really do some things that we wanted to do. So we really made an initiative to grow the portfolio and really try to create more loyal customers and get more customers, Cabela customers, to carry the card and get those rewards. And it really made a better Cabela's customer.
Oh yeah,
the people that carry the card. So that was a lot of fun, and
we benefited directly from that. So I personally benefited directly from that. So my dad would buy seed on he would make basically large purchases on the farm with this card, find ways to buy stuff with that, and then boom, paid off instantly. And then
we had a lot of we kind of changed the game in credit card world where traditionally banks that were credit card issuers did not like convenience users, they call them, and there's revolvers. Convenience users are really the people that pay off. So they use it as convenience, but they never revolve where they pay interest. They pay it off in the grace period. And so, but we love those people, and, they'd earn more points, and you could actually figure out a business model that made that profitable. And so, we about half of our customers were revolvers, about half were convenience users, which was the metrics in the industry was maybe 15% revolvers, 85% revolvers, 15% convenience users.
Half and half.
Our portfolio was 50-50. So it was just a whole nother deal. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. And we grew that, and, we're able to then, penetrate all of our channels. By then the internet, was now viable. E-commerce was happening, and, that was the next division. So in Cabela, we had three divisions really: the e-commerce, catalog, and brick and mortar. They called it Slicks, Bricks, and Clicks.
Slicks, Bricks, and Clicks. I love it. That's awesome.
So, but then you had to work all that. But you were able to market the card and all of those. But that grew really very rapidly, and became. I think when it was sold to Cap One, when Bass Pro bought Cabela's, we had about 2.5 million active card holders.
2.5 million card holders.
And about $6.5 billion portfolio. So that started with nothing, but we were like the second largest bank in Nebraska that nobody had ever heard of.
So from nothing to 6 billion.
Yep.
And growing that alongside a massively successful retail business and with it.
Yep.
That's
and incredible. So my role at Cabela changed. I was a CFO president, and then, this needed a CEO, because it was going that way. And I wanted to do that. Right. That was kind of my passion, because, you started from nothing. And so I moved to Lincoln. That's what got me back to Lincoln. Because that's where the location was, because that's where NBC was. And, then I kind of gradually, got rid of my responsibilities at Cabela's and moved that to other people. It still was on the board. But anyway, so
because you were very, sounds like very intimately involved. You understood the marketing side. Obviously, it wasn't just something where you were the finance guy and you were kind of off and specifically focused on numbers. Strategically, you were very involved, it sounds like.
At Cabela's?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really, before they formalized all the positions, there were really two VPs. I was one of them, and I had not only the finance and accounting, of course, but, I had all the marketing, customer service, call centers, IT, real estate development, under me, and then the other VP had all of the distribution and merchandising because I wasn't a merchandiser, and so
that was such a beast by itself that one person just needed to head that up.
We kind of split the responsibilities. But,
wow.
But
so
but that's kind of what, you talk about career paths. You really learn how business is run because I got involved in, marketing, operations, strategic development, all of the things that have nothing to do with finance and accounting, and how that all has to work together to grow a business. But that was an invaluable experience.
Oh, totally. What prepared you? Like, what did you do to prepare yourself to get to these next levels? I mean, they clearly had a ton of trust in you just from the financial side. First of all, hiring you from an accounting firm that you were a partner at to then becoming their were you a CFO immediately, or
yes.
you were immediately their CFO? So moving to that and then to a VP position, what allowed you to continue just keep climbing these ranks? Like, did you have to do a ton of research? Were you working 80-hour weeks? Like, what was your life like?
We were working a lot of hours, there's no question. And I'm kind of a workaholic. I mean, that was, but that you just had to do that. I loved what I was doing. My family, we made it work and all of that. But when you're passionate about something, but yeah, you just, you just have to, look at something and say, okay, how does this work? Figure it out. And then, use all of your other things that about, a lot of things like in direct marketing, when you put a financial element into it that they didn't have, you can improve everything. So you learn a lot. You got to be a fast learner, and you just have to think strategically on how this can all fit together. And you make mistakes along the way. There's no question. And that's what I loved about Dick Cabela. He told me that, Dave, if you're not making some mistakes, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
And you need to learn from those, and then control the risk, and then go from there and figure out where to go, and always plan for the worst, but hopefully the best is going to be the result. But if it goes wrong, you better know what to do. So and we had plenty of those. So.
Yeah, and so they had just an insane amount of trust in you. Basically, you said they gave you a lot of rope to kind of go do your job.
Yeah, and that's what that's the way they develop people, and that's why that thing grew, because they weren't entrepreneurs that wanted to control everything and have their thumb on everything that was going on and be micromanagers. They did not believe in that philosophy at all. And they wanted you, if you couldn't handle it, you go find somebody that can, and pay them well, and make sure that they can do their job, and that let's learn from them, and let's bring that expertise in, and then just keep going. So that's
I remember a Steve Jobs quote that, like, I believe the quote was, we don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do.
Yeah, that's that actually was happening. I mean, I lived that. So we brought in a lot of talent. Recruiting into Sidney, Nebraska, where we were located, that was always a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, I always described it as kind of a funny story, is you get 10 qualified people, that apply for a job or that were interested in this opportunity. We would, once they found out it was in Sidney, Nebraska, you lose 8 of them because they didn't want to move their family to. So the 2 left over came to Sidney, and the one out of those 2 would see the school system or where they're going to live and just say, and the wife would say, no,
I'm out.
And I'm out. And so you'd have one good candidate to hire. But yeah, but we worked through all that, and that was a great experience.
That's interesting. What other kind of like isms did you pick up from Dick and Jim as you worked for them and worked with them through all these years of growing this massively successful business?
Well, you learn along the way that you how to manage people, which that just takes time and effort, because you have different types of personalities, you have different types of management styles, you have different this and that, and you really try to vet out what their highest and best is and what they're passionate about and put them in those kind of positions, because then they'll flourish, and keep them away from things that, they're not. And
that drains their life.
Don't force them into something that they're not good at. So, you learn that philosophy. You also learn decision making. I mean, when you get into an executive level, really what you're paid to do is make decisions and analyze facts and, make the right call. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah. And that involves a lot, it takes time, but be careful with decision making and think about it and rethink about it and then analyze it and then, figure out what could go wrong, what could go right, what are the risks, and then make the call. And, you may have 5 different choices. So you're paid to make the right one.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you do your best.
Did you ever have any times where you're just like, this is growing way too quickly, like this is too much to handle, or were you just like right there for it? Right.
I loved the challenge. So, it was a lot of fun too. I mean, to create something and make it work, it was very rewarding. It was fun. I mean, we had a great culture. The people we worked with were good people, and we were, that's what attracted talent to Cabela's, was that opportunity. And that's why it grew and was successful. That we had, our merchandising crew, which I didn't manage the merchandising, but they were industry top. I mean, we were known as, we had the best merchants in the industry by a long ways. Yeah. And we were able to attract those kind of people, and their whole management and philosophy was really very attractive. I mean, they wanted merchants that were users of the product and lived the life. Yeah. So a merchant is a fantastic job, because if you love to hunt and fish or be outdoors, now you have a job that's what you get to live. Yeah. And now you get to figure out all the products, and they wanted field testers, people that actually, knew what our customers wanted, because they live that lifestyle. It's
kind of a take it home and try this approach and see what you think. And like, honestly, like, they want them to be that ingrained into the product and understand it that well. Like, just go fire a couple rounds through this thing. Let me know what you think.
Yeah. Well, and they would actually make you go, to spend time in the field, and your experience, and test products in the field. Does this really work? And some of our best ideas in merchandising came from that. I mean, Cabela's had a lot of patents and things that we created product that nobody else thought of. And that's what the beauty of Cabela. You'd walk in there, and if you were an avid archery person, you'd see product that nobody had thought of, and that you go, what's this one do? Or, tell me about this. And I didn't know this existed. Man, that's a great idea. I got to have this, so you always try to stay ahead and be very innovative in product development. And we were good at that. So
that's awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. So that story, to kind of continue off of that story, you worked there for how many total years were you at Cabela's?
Well, I lived in Sydney about 10, because I had to move my family. I remember my wife's first reaction to moving to Sydney was, "Oh, my dead body, is that going to happen?" But we took her out there, and she warmed up to it. And moving from Lincoln, where we came from, to a community of, at that time, 6,000 people in the middle of nowhere was. You have to make some adjustments. Right. So anyway, what we did, we had 2 small kids, and it all worked out. Mm-hmm. So
you were there for 10 years.
Yeah, in Sydney, and then at the bank, I'm thinking maybe 6 years. Well, actually 8 years. If you count when I was doing both, in the growth, when the bank and the whole credit cards thing started, that started probably 12 years of that. So
gotcha.
So then, that all worked out, and we grew. And then, probably the experience that kind of changed things is, we ended up, Dick and Jim really didn't have any succession for the business. So, the succession planning, what are they going to do with this business? And I was involved in that. A lot of different things were looked at, but we ended up going public in 2004. So being part of an IPO process was another kind of experience that, that you learn a lot from. And
but that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of work, and I'm, glad I went through it, and it was an experience, and you learn a lot of things, but.
Would you ever do that again if an opportunity presented?
I think I would tell you that after the fact, if Dick and Jim had to make that decision again, they wouldn't have went public. It just changes a lot.
A lot more eyeballs on you for one.
Well, and first of all, you have all of the regulations and SEC and compliance and all that stuff, but it really, you're in those days, this was like Sarbox, and you had all this corporate governance stuff that was hitting the market, after like Enron and all those things. So you had to have like a board of directors where the majority of them were independent, and so you had to bring in outside directors, and so over time. And we had some private equity guys that were, that were involved in it, and it just changed the culture,
right?
And it got to be the entrepreneurial spirit started, slipping away because you had more people there more interested in covering their, than they were, taking risk or doing the same thing. So it changes a culture.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
That you just said there, more people are interested in covering their butts versus like actually
taking a risk and being an entrepreneur.
Being entrepreneurial.
Yep.
So did you consider yourself an entrepreneur when you worked there? Like you're technically an intrapreneur. You worked inside of an organization, but you were very entrepreneurial inside of it. Did you consider yourself entrepreneurial at that time, or did you say?
Well, you did. You tried, but you had to. Now you had new challenges.
Right.
Okay, and it just got to be where it wasn't as fun anymore. And then, the credit crisis hit, and, so anyway, long story short, I ended up retiring and said, I'm going to do something else. And I had some opportunities, but anyway, so that led me into what I call my third career, which is what I'm doing now.
Right.
And
let's talk about that.
Sure. So anyway, I tried retirement. I'm the kind of guy, I was bored to death.
Like how long did it take? Like 5 days? Or like
2 months.
2 months?
Yeah, you can only play golf so many times. Or, it's just, being away from it, I just wasn't happy and didn't like it.
Yeah.
And, needed, could not just do nothing, right? That's just not the way I was wired. So.
Were you serving on boards at this time?
Yeah, I was on several boards. I was on the board of the directors for the Buckle,
the Buckle. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I was another one in Denver called Air Methods. I was publicly traded. And then a couple of bank boards, so I was doing that game.
Yeah.
And that was fun, also being a director on a publicly traded company. I mean, now you see the other side of it,
right?
Corporate, fiduciary responsibility, board responsibility, and just, how all of that ties into management. But, I was on the management side of it, and now you're on the other side of it. So that's an eye opener. But those were, those learned a lot there as well. So I did that, but, I started getting calls from my people in my network, that were kind of unsolicited, but hey, you want to work on something? Is this something you think you could help us with? And so I started doing some consulting and got some real interesting projects.
Yeah.
And kind of kept me in the game a little bit. And the one
financial consulting, basically
it was all over
CFO
the map.
Work or all over?
Yeah, operations, marketing consult, just the things that,
Awesome.
Industry consulting within outdoors industry, and just some real interesting stuff. Some of the people I met during the private equity and the public market world, an investment banker would call me, hey, I got a client, or this situation is this something you could help them with, based on. So, I did those types of things. Some of them were long, some of them were fairly short. Mm-hmm. I didn't like consulting just because, the consultants are brought in and you analyze something, you think you try to figure it out, you come up with recommendations to help, or this is what you think, needs to happen. And, they take your report or they take your closing conference or whatever, and nothing happens.
Yeah, the execution's up to them.
Execution
ultimately.
is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, okay, I'm glad, we already kind of knew that.
Thanks
we
for
brought
telling
you
us.
in for, confirming it. Here's what we're going to do. you know, and so, you know, it just, you weren't an entrepreneur, you know?
Right.
So anyway, but I did, you know, one of my gigs was in the industry that I'm servicing now. It was a group called Clear Choice Dental Implant Centers. Mm-hmm. And they brought me in because of financing and unsecured financing. They were a dental implant model. They were early, they're the nation's largest today, but they were an early adopter of the technology and really found a business model that made the processes convenient. And it's a complicated story on that. But anyway, they relied a lot on patient financing as their revenue base. 40% of their revenue, because of dental implants are expensive, you know, people needed financing or help. And they had two lenders doing their patient financing, and both of those lenders decided to exit the space.
Oh, really?
And so they had a problem.
Gotcha.
So they brought me in to figure out what can we do? How do we get something in place that we have the liquidity for patient financing, and, you know, what can we do? So that was the gig. And that's what got me interested in this. And what I discovered, there really wasn't a lot of good product. Yeah. It was all top down. Here's what we're willing to do, make it work in your business model, you know, from a bank or a financial institution point of view. Nothing was built from the ground up.
Nothing was like catered to them.
This is what we need.
Right.
This is what our patients need. This is what our business needs. Build me something that, you know, accommodates that. So that's what got me the idea to start the company that is one of my companies now, Proceed Finance.
Gotcha.
And that's been a lot of fun. So it took about 2 years to put that together.
2 years. I'm gonna have you bring this a little bit closer.
Sure. It took about 2 years to get that launched before we could go to market. I mean, because you need a lot of capital, because you got to have liquidity, because we're a funded model. So I pay my providers, you know, within 24 hours. So we send out a lot of money every day. So you have to have that in place. You have to have the technology piece. You know, we needed we built our own loan origination system that really is designed for this industry. And so, you know, that had to be built with, you know, computer software engineers and understand what they need. We had to do a lot of beta testing to get it right. Wow. And then you need all the operational piece of it. And then, you know, how are you going to get new business, you know, marketing and all of that. So we started small. There was like, you know, 4 of us. I hired some employees, and, you know, we beta tested it. I got a great opportunity because Clear Choice, who I knew and done work for, allowed me to see if I could make it work for them. Yeah. So they helped a lot. So that they now are our largest customer, you know, in terms of volumes of loans. But awesome. You know, and then you just do, you know, hey, you're starting from de novo. How do I get business? How do I grow this? And so we tried a lot of different things, and finally, it's taken off to today. It's we have about 250 providers that use us, and, you know, we don't really do any marketing. Most of it's referral based, and we focus pretty much. We provide unsecured financing for elective uninsured medical and dental procedures, primarily dental. And we kind of focused into a niche that we finance a lot of dental implant procedures, which is primarily what we do, which are expensive. It's a wonderful solution medically for people who, you know, are losing or missing teeth or indentures, because it has some life-changing benefits.
You were telling me a little bit about this. You were telling me a little bit about all of the different benefits that actually are associated with, because a lot of people just think it's like aesthetics, but it's so much bigger than that. No,
it's much more than that. It's
so much bigger than that.
Yep.
You know, and anybody that's had issues or has to have them knows that to be true. But talk through that a little bit. Like, what are some of the benefits and like some of the like life-changing stories you've seen from this? Because like people may like hear this and be like, okay, great, that's not super interesting, but it's what your money is doing to like actually help people that is really the impact here, right? I mean, like the financing side, you're the vehicle for this to actually happen, which is what makes it fun, because you're changing people's lives still today.
And we do that every day, you know, and that's rewarding. I mean, when people, you know, basically have a life-changing solution to the problem. Just a little bit about dental implants. There's 44 million people today in the country, and that's an estimate of people that are in dentures, have missing teeth or dental problems.
44 million.
Yes.
Man.
Okay, and as I told you before, most people get in that pool not because of they didn't take care of their teeth or their oral hygiene. It's genetics. That they're just in a gene pool that, we've increased life expectancy in the last 150 years from 55 to 78 or whatever it is. And people's teeth were never designed to last that long.
Right.
And if you're in that gene pool, you're going to lose your teeth or you're going to have problems. And it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So what's your solution? Well, the people, as the problem begins to happen, people... imagine what it would be like if, you're losing your teeth, you're missing teeth, and what's life like for you? Well, you can't eat the same way you used to, but it's more than that. You live as an introvert, you're embarrassed. You
don't smile as often.
You don't smile, you don't socialize. You may be passed over for job promotions. Your career is maybe limited depending on what you do. And just, it's a miserable life because you don't, everybody knows because you can't hide it.
No.
You may try to hide it, but, the technology in implantology has really evolved in the last probably 40 years. It was invented, they really started doing it in the 80s. And then it just, the science and all the things that make it work. But it's a perfect solution because, one, it's life-changing because all that goes away. People who go through the procedure, like a full mouth restoration, or maybe if it's an upper or lower, they get perfect teeth for the rest of their life.
Yeah. That
they get to choose. And now, over 95% of all of your jaw power and all of the things that natural teeth give you are restored.
95% comparatively to like dentures, which is going to be...
dentures, they will tell you maybe 40.
So your ability to chew on a steak, well, I don't know if you can do that with dentures, probably not.
No.
Yeah, you can't do that. So
now you can eat whatever you want. You can eat steak, but it's much more than that. You get all of the social stuff, but it also improves your health. That's what most people understand.
Improves your health, the social, like the anxiety, even like the confidence.
Mental health and your actual physical health, because if you have dentures or poor oral hygiene or missing teeth, everything goes in your body goes through your mouth, so it can lead to heart disease. It can lead to all kinds of nasty stuff that when you have natural teeth, that all would be taken care of, but now it's not. So Mayo is doing a study that it probably adds 5 to 10 years to life expectancy versus those that don't.
Man.
And so all of this is just life changing. And the problem is expensive.
Right.
Okay. So what we try to do, and that was the solution.
By the way, what's the average cost on that?
Today the market price, if you need full mouth restoration, so both upper and lower, so they're going to basically take out all your teeth, and then they do some surgery. They put the implants in. They do a lot of bone grafting. Every case is different. Based on what the facts are, but the whole process for full mouth is usually between 50 and 60,000. A full arch, just upper lowers half, and the implants, that includes all the restorative stuff. And it involves disciplines, like you've got an oral surgeon or a high-end dentist that's been trained to do surgery to place the implants. The science behind it is the implants are placed in your jaw, depending on your facts, and it kind of tricks your brain into thinking it's part of your jaw. So the bone actually goes around it, so it becomes permanently part of your jaw. The implant, so it creates the foundation where implants then can be permanently attached and restores everything, and you get perfect teeth. That are basically, think of it as building a house. The foundation's there. Now you can put, the restorative stuff and the different types of, teeth that are perfect, that solves the problem for the rest of your life. So,
wow. That's like, I didn't even know any of that.
Yeah, well, I know more than I probably want to. Right? I've seen the life surgeries, all that stuff, with our providers, and it's an amazing process. And it's like when people go through that, and the first time they have, first of all, they put temporaries on because the osteointegration, which is where the bone grows around the implants, takes about 3 to 6 months, depending on individuals. And then they can put the permanent bridges on and teeth. But when somebody goes through, they have their temps and they see their brand new teeth for the first time in their life and what they're going to look like. I mean, it's like an emotional, like people start crying. They just, it's pretty cool to see the experience of what they go through. But anyway, so we finance these. So my job, and I create, it's like this. I have to create a product that creates affordability for people so more people can access this. Okay, that's what we do.
Right.
So we have a product that, we make term loans, $2,500 to $70,000 unsecured. It's all instant. And, we have a very sophisticated underwriting risk department, and but I'll finance up to 9 years on this unsecured, and with a lower rate. And I've got a model. It's a shared risk model where everybody puts something on the table to make this happen. So I make the provider put something on the table, the patient puts something on the table, I put something on the table, and the three of us can create a product that gives them an affordable payment that fits their budget, that they're comfortable with, so they can say yes.
Interesting.
So that's kind of what we do here. But that didn't exist in the marketplace.
And so you had to go make it.
Yeah. So we did that. But it's taken off really nicely, and we're
how much testing did you do before? Like how many, like you consulted with your first
beta
company?
tested all of it.
Like how many people did you work with? I'm not actually like talking pre-beta before you had software or anything. Were you calling people and saying like, hey, I need a term loan?
That was my
like,
Clear Choice experience.
Right.
I actually talked to treatment coordinators. What do you need? And it was, pretty simple.
So consulting worked out.
Yeah. That's what got me. Well, that and your experience with unsecured financing, because I'm in the credit card world, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's pretty simple. A treatment coordinator, who actually has to meet with the patient and eventually get into how you're going to pay for this conversation. Said, if you can make it look like a car payment, Dave, we can sell and get people into this. If you make it look like a house payment, nobody's going to do that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So it's that simple. So I had to make it look like a car payment.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
So smart. That totally makes sense, because if you have this really complex thing and you're already scared to do it, like you're already concerned about the procedure, it's a life-changing
people
thing.
have to get over.
It's money, it's emotion. It's like, I'm going to be out for a few weeks probably.
Yeah, there's a recovery period.
There's recovery. So you have all those things on top of the fact you're like, oh yeah, by the way, like the loan looks really sketchy. Not even, it's just complex. Well, right? People, they don't know how to read it. Like they're going to look at that 28-page paper or whatever the loan actually comes out to, and somebody will hopefully do a decent job explaining it.
And that's what I had to do from a provider's perspective. What they want, fast, simple, easy, no drama. Okay? Because I've got 4 other people in my waiting room to see me, and I don't have time for problems. So this has to be fast, simple, easy, and so that's what your platform has to deliver. Okay? And it's instant. So they can close a financing in 5 minutes or less.
Wow.
Okay. And the loan docs, and it's done. I mean, all this has to work. And, I go through an underwriting platform that, is accessing credit bureaus, all kinds of databases, going through, all kinds of algorithms that, may in seconds make an offer based on what I know about you. Okay.
Wow.
And control risk. But anyway, so it's been a fun business. But yeah, it's taken off. We just relocated. We've got and we're just taking on we're going to service our own loans starting August 1st. But we've got about 50 people and growing. And we have 2,200 providers all over the country. Most of our business is not in this market. It's East Coast and West Coast and South.
Interesting. Okay.
And a lot of procedures that are financed, but
it's
a huge need and a lot of runway. Pardon?
Did that surprise you at all?
No, it's where the population is.
Right.
But think about it. The average age of somebody that goes through this procedure is like right around 58. So where do those people live?
Retirement areas.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so, the South and Florida, Texas,
Totally makes
California, we have a lot of business on the East Coast as well. But, in Nebraska, for example, it's kind of like, people, well, am I going to spend $50,000 or $60,000 on my mouth? They're a lot more hesitant, well, maybe I want to leave that money to my kids. I'll just live with this. Or, it's just a different, you get, in other markets where, I'm going to take care of myself and I'm worth it and I'm going to spend the money and I'm tired of living like the way I'm living. So I don't know, it's just interesting. So
man, that's super interesting. So what I love about this is for anyone that thinks like, oh man, I don't know if I would get into finance or anything along those lines, that doesn't seem quote fun to me. But like, this is the opportunities where you can actually make it exciting and creative. Like you created a product in the market that didn't exist. And this is, I always, when people ask like, oh, the business side must be, you must have a lot more fun, Landon, in the video side or the podcasting side of what you do. I'm like, I love the money side of it, just because you're like learning to understand the market and asking the market what it wants and then providing that service. And it's not necessarily just like the creative aspect of it. It's like, what does the market actually need right now? And that's basically what you went and found.
Yeah, you're solving a problem.
Yeah.
And you build it from that. You find and create the solution to solve the problem, and nobody else has done that, or they're trying to give you a product that they think will solve your problem, and it doesn't. Okay,
I want to say something specifically to that. So in that example, you have somebody that's saying, here, just take our thing. It's a one size fits all. It'll work for you too. Instead of actually falling in love with the problem, they're falling in love with their solution.
That's correct.
They don't want to like learn how to fall in love with the problem, to find a solution that actually works best for that problem. And that I heard someone say that a few weeks ago, and that really just stuck with me. Falling in love with the problem.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of that. But we do, like I said, unsecured financing for elective uninsured medical and dental. Dental is our primary business, and there's a lot of runway in what we're doing. High end dentistry that involves implants and implants. There's a lot of runway there, and it's exploding. So, and the biggest problem they have is there's not enough qualified people that know how to do the procedure. Okay, because they don't teach implantology in dental school.
So you have to go.
Okay, so if you're a dentist and you got to go get, there's advanced degrees. There's periodontists, I call them prosthodontists, and endodontists. They're root canal guys. But so and then you got to learn how to do surgery. So you have to be trained and competent, and that you know what you're doing, and there's a lot of advanced training that is required. But oral surgeons can usually place the implants, but they don't do the restorative side of it. Or a high-end dentist that's been trained can do the surgery and place the implants. And anyway, so we do implants. Yeah, we've got other verticals that we're testing as well. Yeah. So
that totally makes sense, though. Look at you built this product, and now you can adapt it towards maybe a new industry, and then continue to
different verticals.
Duplicate your software to that vertical, have it service, or maybe use the exact same software.
Yeah.
That's.
It works.
I totally
we've got some other ideas, and that's all in the uninsured market or the elective market.
Yeah.
There's other problems happening in this country that we're looking at as well. That in the insured market is funding like high deductible healthcare plans.
Right.
Because there's a need there. That problem's just starting, but we haven't gone there yet. We're kind of trying to figure that out. That's that's really complicated. But so there's a lot of fun things to work on. But the Proceed Finance Company's located here in Lincoln. Nobody probably knows about us, but
providers do, though.
The providers do, yeah.
That's good.
We travel. I speak a lot. At different types of forums or seminars, on what we do, because there's a lot of interest, because I provide the money to make all this happen, and we have over 2,200 professional doctors or practices that use us today, and we're growing about 100 a month of new business and new clients. But they'll have to be trained, but they need a lot of help, especially if you got a GP or a family a dentist or a general dentist that wants to get into implantology, what do they need to do to make it work? And so we actually try to help them through that process as well. And there's a lot of industry players in this. Obviously, the people that make implants, there's marketing companies that just do nothing but marketing for implantology and the practice changes that you need to make. So we're, it's kind of fun. We're involved in the industry pretty heavily. And
it's fun to be deep in a niche, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Because everybody, the biggest problem a provider will tell you is that that wants to do implantology is the affordability issue for patients. Because how many people in this country can write a check or pay cash or have the means to finance or to fund this without help?
Doesn't exist. Like very
60% of America that can qualify for financing, need financing to access this service. And even those that can pay cash want financing because they don't want to spend their money. They want the flexibility. So anyway,
that totally makes sense though.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anyway, that's what I'm doing now.
And then you've got you've got one very big thing that you've been working on for the last few months as well.
Or not
even the last few months, few years, I should say.
Yes.
But alongside Proceed Finance, you've been building or been working with another firm called Meridian, right?
Meridian Clinical Research. I got involved. That was one of my consulting gigs. Back in the day when I was doing that, I got introduced to an entrepreneur who was very small, but was doing clinical trials for the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, I won't get into the details, but to get an FDA approved drug, you have to go through clinical trials, clinical testing. There's a phase 1 through 4, and it all has to be approved. And the statistics are, if you get approved to file what's called an NDA, new drug application with the FDA, less than 10% of the drugs that get approved.
Wow.
It's like 8, and billions of dollars are spent to try to get something to market that's FDA approved, so it can be a tool or subscribed by doc, improves your health, right?
Right.
Or treats conditions, whatever. So she was doing this, and I agreed to help her. She wanted to grow. And very entrepreneurial, so I got involved in that company and kind of was their finance guy, or in the role of CFO. But we were doing really well. We grew to about 20 sites around the country, different locations where we would conduct clinical trials. Did a lot of vaccine work, but we had pretty deep. You have to have what's called a principal investigator, or PI, that is a doctor that is responsible for the health and safety of the patients that go through trials or voluntarily agree to be part of a trial to test drugs. So we do mainly phase 2 and 3. Phase 1 is all about safety. Phase 2 is more efficacy and getting into, does it work? What are the side effects? Is it better than drugs that are already currently on the market that treat this condition? All the things, and then the science and stuff. But anyway, so COVID hits, and, at first, like everything else, the country shuts down, and the trials we had in process were canceled or deferred, and nobody knew what was going on. I mean, patients didn't want to be part of things, and all sorts of nasty stuff. But we were known as had a lot of vaccine experience, and so we got kind of invited into the Operation Warp Speed because of our capabilities and experience and the type of PIs that we had, and we ended up being part of the COVID vaccine solution.
One of 5 companies, right?
5, yeah. There were 5 drug companies that were part of Operation Warp Speed that had the science and a drug that they thought would work. Okay.
So you're Moderna,
Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. You had AstraZeneca, and then there's another company that hasn't got theirs approved. It's called Novavax. We're the 5. So we did the clinical trials for 4 out of the 5.
Wow.
And that was wild and crazy. So this company went from 120 employees to 375 employees in like 3 months. And it was like, Operation Warp Speed was truly that.
Yeah.
FDA was allowing things like we started phase 3 trials before phase 2 was complete.
Right.
That's never happened.
And that's after, I think we should clarify this. This is after that has been past the safety phase, which is phase 1, right? So now we're on efficacy. We're looking at,
does it work?
Does it work?
And then what's the right dosage and what's the, impact or effects? And so, you had the trials, these were all double blinded. So 50% of the people that agreed to be part of these trials, especially phase 3, because that was the massive trial where there was 30,000 people that were in the trial all over the country. They had all kinds of subgroups, in terms of what you were measuring and how does it work on, people over 65, people that have this condition, people have this condition. And so, all of the things that, trials, are we monitor and you test and you document. But it was double blind. So what they wanted to do is half the people got the real stuff, half the people got a placebo, and then they wanted the people that were in the trial to go out and get exposed to COVID.
To go out and get exposed. And so where would they go?
Well, you'd be a worker, healthcare worker.
Healthcare workers. So
you would be, people that were around in high risk areas. And that, because that's the only way they would know if it worked. And that versus the placebo versus the people that had the vaccine.
Right.
Well, how did that compare with the people that didn't have the vaccine, and what was the effective rate? So that's how they were able to come up with it. Like Moderna, 92% effective.
Right.
And how do they get those statistics? Well, there's only one way to do it, and that's
to find out.
Exactly. Right. So they approved drugs, but that was a lot. That's great, and that's still going on. So this company is exploding as well, and now there's all sorts of basically the vaccines that are approved for COVID today are under an emergency authorization by the FDA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
They don't grant that very often.
Get it going.
Okay. But, there's all the other stuff. We don't know, like pediatric COVID vaccines. The first one was only for people over age either 16 or 18. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now they've lowered that. So, what does children get and what dosages? So all of that's, being researched today. All of a sudden they're going to mix a COVID vaccine with the flu vaccine. That's coming. There's all sorts of things. And, there's no cure for it. So there's a lot of drug companies working on, you get COVID, what can we give you to, get healthy or, improve your condition or cure it? Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist either. And you get, and then there's another one that we're working on, a tablet form of COVID, because, the getting 2 shots, needles, a lot of people just it didn't, it's not convenient, but people are scared of that.
Right.
So how do you make that more convenient for people?
How do you just ship out in the mail and they just pop that little tablet,
But that doesn't exist today. But so this is a lot of fun too. So I mean,
your side hustle.
That's my second job that I do. But,
right.
but that's been a lot of fun. But it was really rewarding to be involved in that.
Yeah.
Because the whole country was behind it, and it had to happen. And if it didn't happen, here were the consequences. So it was like whatever had to take place to make that happen took place.
Wow.
And you were part of that. As part of this whole, experience is, the rewarding part of it, just to tell you all the things that happened. But we have a site in Savannah, Georgia, and in that site, it was Dr. Bradley, we dosed the first patient with the Moderna vaccine in the country.
Wow.
Okay. And it caught a lot of press.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. Remember the times when there was no vaccine and it was, COVID was just continuing to get worse. Everybody, you couldn't live, social distancing, all the stuff, restrictions, can't do this, and this, and the country was just begging for a solution. And so now the first vaccine, is allowed to be tested, and we have to run through clinical trials to, understand what it is and how it works, and does it really work, and how is this something that the FDA should approve, for the mass, so we dosed the first person in the country.
That is incredible.
Yep. So anyway,
did you ever think you're going to be doing any of this stuff?
I mean, it's like, well, who could have predicted any of this, right?
Yeah,
so
that's so exciting.
And that was just a fact of being in the right place at the right time. I mean, we had the infrastructure to do it, but who would have ever imagined that that COVID-19 took over the country and to some degree still is, and we now live with that. But being part of the cure, the solution, was pretty exciting.
That's gotta feel pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
so that's the other thing I'm involved. So anyway, that's what I'm doing these days.
You're like a little bit busy. It's kind of sometimes. That's good. Well, I'm sure we've taken up all the time that we can with this today. This has been incredibly interesting, and really it's just so fun to hear your story. And so what we do on Spark to Fire is before our guests kind of sign off, we normally have people kind of like give a last piece of advice for entrepreneurs. So I'd love to know what advice would you give to somebody that wants to go start a company today? And then also what advice would you give to somebody that's working in a company today versus, because there's entrepreneurs, there's people that are working inside of an organization that they love the security that provides. So I just love to hear your 2 cents on that before we close out.
Sure. Well, I didn't create this, but I remember it and I kind of live by it. But okay, you start a company or you're in a career, and you don't know where you're going, but you want to you want to own your own business or you want to be part of something special. What do you live by? I call it the PI theory. Okay, so what's PI stand for? The P, perseverance. Okay, and you got to have a lot of that because you're gonna have times when it doesn't work, things aren't going well, and you want to quit. But you have to have that element where you get back and you try it again and you make it work, and you have to live through failures. You have to solve problems, and you have to persevere. All right. Then the I is integrity. Okay, you have to have integrity if you're going to do this. People have to trust you. You have to be honest. You have to you have to do what you say. You have to deliver. You have to get people where they believe in you and they know that they can trust and be part of what you're doing, and that you have the integrity. Then the final one is just excellence. You have to then operate in an environment of you want excellence, and that's how we run our company. That's the standards we have here, and that's what everybody lives by. So I love it. Simple, but very effective. Yep. Yeah. And I lived a lot of
simple, not easy, I should say.
Yeah. The P is probably because a lot of people quit. They don't have the perseverance to make it work and survive and get back up and make it work.
And they don't get a chance to get surrounded by the people that are the E.
Yeah,
that bring
that's
the excellence.
Exactly right.
Yeah. That's super interesting. Well, that's a solid takeaway for our listeners. So I appreciate you sharing that. And Dave, I just appreciate you coming on here today. This has been so fun to just hear your story, and I'm excited to put this out there.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for inviting me. I hope your listeners get something out of this. But I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the invitation to be on your show.
You bet. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Spark to Fire. If you like this episode, you got some great value out of it, go ahead and screenshot that Spotify or that iTunes screen that you're listening to and tag us on Instagram or post this on Facebook and tag me. And I'll personally reach out to you, and we might even send you some merch. So stay tuned and keep striking.